Welcome into the Pursuit of Manliness podcast, where we are vigorously equipping men to pursue biblical manliness. My name is Jarrett Samuels. I'm the host of the podcast. And men, as always, I'd like to begin by thanking you for listening to or watching today's show. Now, when you get the opportunity, make sure you visit thepursuitofmanliness.com. That's the website where you can find this podcast episode, the whole catalog of 400 previous podcast episodes. You can learn more about the men's retreat. You can learn more about Tribe Builder. There's just a lot of information there when it comes to the pursuit of manliness. Today, I want to highlight the herd. On Mondays, you hear me end the podcast with, for you men in the herd, we have a couple more questions over there. We talk about kind of taking the guest, moving to that conversation for the men in the herd. The men in the herd are a global community of men who help support the pursuit of manliness. Not only do they get extra bonus content, but there's some other aspects to the herd that I would love for you to know about. It's just $5 to be in the herd, and you can cancel at any time. You're going to find two links at the bottom of the show notes. The first is it takes you to the website where you can learn more about the herd. The one below that is where you can sign up and join this community. Men, it's time for today's podcast conversation. All right, brother, let's pray. God, thanks for today. Thank you for the gift of technology. And as we're going to talk about, it can be used as a blessing, and it certainly can be a curse. It can be a great tool to be used in the appropriate manners, and it can be something that can cause a lot of hurt, a lot of division, a lot of distraction and destruction. And God, I pray for the guys listening today. Naturally, they're on a device somewhere, whether it's a phone, tablet, wherever. Would you help us consider what Joey is going to present to us in these tensions? And God, as people within churches or people in positions where we get to influence others, would we strongly consider this? So what he says, God, maybe we can translate that in some way to our people that will give them something to consider. The amount of hours, the amount of distractions, all the things that happen, God. We thank you that you are a God who can redeem these things for good. And I thank you that you are a God who talks about fasting from things as well. And perhaps that's something we need to consider before we end this conversation today. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Well, men, at this time, I want to welcome Mr. Joey Odom to the podcast. Joey Odom, thank you for being on the show today.
Jarrett, it's good to see you, bro. Thank you so much for having me.
I told you it's never happened before. I'm all confused. I'm all convoluted if I'm not more than normal, but you're very similar to a name of a guy who I thought was on. So I'm fired up to have this conversation about what you do. Would you tell us who you are, what you do, and then we're going to get into the tension today.
Yeah, for sure. Again, Joey Odom. I'm co-founder of a company called Aro. Aro is a screen time solution for families to help families reduce their screen time so that they can focus on their most important relationships. So we help reshape that relationship we have with our device, because we have a relationship with it, so that we can then focus on our most important relationships.
I love that idea. We do have a relationship with our device, don't we?
Isn't that weird?
Right.
By the way, it's, adults don't have relationships with devices. Let's just start there, right? Like, I see my lawnmower once a week for about 9 months out of the year, right? But I don't go, have conversations with it. I don't go sneak off when a conversation gets boring and sneak in a quick mow, right? Like, I don't have a relationship with that object. So it's weird that we have a relationship with our device. And in a way, it's like we're kids. It's like kids have relationship with little blankies and teddy bears. This relationship with our device is reverting us back to a childhood state of dependence on an object. And I'm sure you agree with me here. I just don't like that. I would rather focus on real relationships as opposed to a relationship with an inanimate object.
I've never been so deeply offended at the start, but you're exactly right. I never take the lawnmower to the bathroom just to kill some time, get me out of a social setting or anything. You're 100% correct. And it's something we probably don't consider enough. Yeah. A relationship with our phone, but you talk about real relationships. That means if we're all on our phone, then we're not having those real relationships, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, in a way, and I think we can talk this way, we go on a lot of mom podcasts as well, but I can speak to the dads here. Guys, it's freaking weird. Like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we allowing, we spend all our lives focused on the woman we're going to marry someday, or all our lives on like, oh, what are my kids going to be like? And then once those things happen, we completely subvert those real relationships with this one relationship in our pocket. And that's no judgment, by the way, because we started this business because I was the worst at it. I was like Paul in that I was the chief of sinners on this. So I can tell you that this is when we all feel this dis-ease. We all know it. And the question is, what in the world can we do about it? And by the way, and I'm sure we'll get into this, it's crushing those relationships. It's crushing our kids inside. It's crushing the intimacy in our marriages. And it's about time that we just do something about it. And the cool thing is, we can do something about it. We actually do have the agency in this subject, even though it may feel hopeless at times.
It's funny you say that. This thing started for that very same reason. I was the lamest man I've ever run up on. I said, I can't live like that anymore. The Holy Spirit really got a hold of me. I said, boy, I need to redeem whatever time I have left. You're saying the same thing. I love the idea that you say you can do something about this. Let's identify the tension. You're saying it's crushing these relationships, and guys are like, no, it's not, because she's on her phone too, and the kids are on their device and whatever. So we're all just doing the same thing together. They might think it's a shared experience, but that's not really taking place.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and listen, we have an opportunity, and even for the females listening to this, we have an opportunity to lead. No matter who you are, even if it's a child listening to this, you have an opportunity to lead, to reshape the culture. And I just don't, and I know you agree with this, I don't like this idea that it's somebody else's fault. I just don't, just internally, I don't like that feeling, right? Even the way we talk about our phones, we say, oh, we're addicted to our phones. Hold on one second. When you're addicted to something, the first step in that conversation of a 12-step program is you say, I'm powerless over this thing. So I just don't like the idea that I'm powerless over something. What if instead we said, this is a habit, I can do something about a habit. So when it comes to our marriages, let's just think about ourselves. And by the way, we say all the time, and I'll just maybe begin with this as a premise. Every good thing in your life will be limited by your relationship with your phone, no matter what it is. So every good thing you could want a great date night, but if you're sitting on your phone, the goodness of that date night and probably, what may happen in the bedroom after will be limited by what you do with your device, right? So that will be the limitation. So I just want to encourage guys to start and stop. This is what we say, start, stop. If you get anything out of this, it's start, stop. Start with yourself. This isn't your wife's problem. This isn't your child's problem. This is your problem. This is something that you can begin to work on for yourself. And don't, obviously, let's not talk about the speck in somebody else's eye when we got a plank in our own eye, right? Let's start with ourselves. That's one. Let's start and stop. I want you to stop at nothing to get it right. And I'll tell you why. Because our kids' futures depend on it. The intimacy in our marriage depends on it. And here's how we know. The stats are proving this out. We all feel this inside, but the stats are proving this out. Suicidal ideation in teenagers is at an all-time high. Teenage unhappiness is at an all-time high. Kids have not built this resilience inside of themselves. They don't have a foundational sense of value to be able to combat the things that are coming at them because they have not been given that foundational sense of value from their parents. But their teenagers today have grown up with a generation of parents who have looked at screens instead of their eyes. And that's a big, big problem. So it is crushing our kids. And the cool thing, again, this is going to sound a little bit judgy, and I promise it's not. Again, you're talking to the chief of sinners. This is going to sound a little bit hopeless, and it's not. This is actually the most hopeful opportunity we have in a relationship right now because we can pause and begin. And I love the word you've used twice, which is redeem. We can redeem this. I tell a story all the time about missing my son when he was 5 years old, missing his very first soccer goal. And he looks over to the sidelines to look at me, and he just saw me on my phone, and I missed that moment. But I can redeem that moment. And I have been working to redeem that moment. So that's one with our kids. Their futures depend on it. So we have to stop at nothing to get it right. And then in our marriages, again, the stats prove this out. The Gottman Institute had a great study that said that successful couples who remain married turn towards their partner's bids for emotional connection 86% of the time, while couples who don't make it only turn towards their partner's bids for emotional connection 33% of the time. And I would submit to you that we are physically and emotionally unable to turn towards our partners, whether physically turn towards them or turn towards their emotional bids. We're physically and emotionally unable to do that when we're holding this phone. So it is and again, you can look at divorce rates if you want. That may be one way to look at it. Are divorces making it or not making it? I like to judge my marriage, The health of my marriage is not based on whether I'm still married. The health of my marriage is based on the level of intimacy in that marriage. And I'm not necessarily just talking about sexual intimacy, physical intimacy. I'm talking about this notion, does my wife feel seen and loved by me? Am I willing to open myself up to my wife and let her see me? That's intimacy, that closeness. So the intimacy in our marriage, and I would say that we are in an intimacy crisis right now. And the only tie into it is our relationship with our devices. This has been building for the last 15, 16, 17 years. And we have a moment in culture now where we're taking a pause and saying, I don't like how this feels, and I want to do something about it.
Yeah, you're saying, just because we're married doesn't mean
Yeah.
there's, and you can have no broken bones in a dead body. Just because it looks whole
Oh,
doesn't mean it's whole, right? Doesn't mean there's
that's
any
right.
life in it. I
Yeah.
think for men, I've been guilty of this, we take the path of least resistance. And guys will say, well, my wife doesn't pursue me, which I think is on the guy to start with. But
Yeah.
if you're doing the death scroll every night and she's,
Mm.
doing it as well, well, no wonder why there's no desire or connection there. And if
Yeah.
there is a desire, it's often because you found it in the death scroll instead
Yes.
of in your bride. So a guy's going to say, well, she's on it too. And you say he can lead out in this, man. Give me some
Yeah.
examples. What should a man be doing?
I'll tell you, I'll give you a couple quick hitters. Actually, let me start with probably my favorite. I have three tips on how three little quick things you can begin to do today, but I want to start with the third one. And this is my favorite one. And I just want you to try this for the guy who says that, which it's easy to say, my wife's always on her phone. The next time she tries to talk to you, the next time when it's one of those moments where it may be one of those emotional bids or, oh, you won't believe what happened today, or, hey, can I talk to you about something? I want you to try this. Say these 6 words. Let me put down my phone. And don't say anything more. Just say, make that really quick. She talks to you. Oh, can I talk to you about that? Yeah, yeah. Let me put down my phone real quick. Let me put down my phone. I believe this is going to sound way overly simplistic, but just try it. I believe those are the 6 most important words in a relationship in 2024. Let me put down my phone. And when you do that, here's what I want you to do. I want you to physically remove your phone from the situation. Take it over to the kitchen drawer, put it in there. We have a product called the Aro box. If you have an Aro box, put it in the Aro box. Go put it physically distant away from you and then sit and look at her. Now, her jaw might drop, right? This may be shocking because what you've just communicated to her is so much bigger than you just putting down your phone. What you've communicated to her is this. You've said, there are 8 billion people on earth who can theoretically reach me on my phone. Right now, you are more important than every single one of them. Bro, that's intimacy. That will make her feel so seen. And by the way, we all have this, but our wives especially have this craving inside to feel seen. That will make her feel so seen. Or the next time she says, hey, let's watch a movie, you say, oh, that'd be great. Let me put my phone here. Don't pat yourself too hard on the back. I do that a lot for myself. Let's not do that. Just make the quick comment. And then she may be shocked by it, or she may not say anything about it. And then tomorrow, do the same thing again. And then the next day, do the same thing again and begin to reverse that culture. She will like how that feels to be the object of your focus. And it may take a while. It may be a reorientation for her. It may even feel a little awkward for her. It'll definitely feel awkward for you. But as you continue to do that, you're going to slowly reshape culture. You're going to slowly reshape the culture in your home. You're going to slowly reshape what's normal for her. If you start doing it with your kids, you're going to slowly start to reshape for them what it feels like to be noticed by their dad. And that's going to feel really good. And it's going to take a while. So it's going to require consistency. So I just want to, well, again, we have the 3 things, but I want to maybe just hone in on that right now. Given the example you just gave, try that. Just try it. And try it today, try it tomorrow, try it the next day. Don't point out to her what you're doing. Just make those 6 words. Let me put it on my phone, and physically remove your phone and focus on that person in that moment.
Not only relationally are you seeing these tensions, I saw somewhere where there's a phrase that it's more difficult to lead a home than a nation. And I think that's one of the challenges. We just say, well, I used all my energy at work. I come home and I'm just going to do mindless whatever. And I see this,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the right phrase, and maybe you can correct me. I think it's called raw dogging or something, where guys will get on a plane and he won't have a phone. He won't have a tablet. He's just going to sit and he's going to just be on the flight or going to do the drive. And I think we've put ourselves in the last couple hundred years in a place where we have to constantly be stimulated by
Yeah.
things. And it's taking a toll on our brains. It's taking a toll on our bodies. What are you seeing? I mean, I'm not a scientist, so are you seeing some things where you're saying this is connected to the mental health crisis? This is connected to divorce rate. This, like the psychological damage that this is happening, where we can't ever turn off the noise.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you don't have to be a scientist to know that. Yeah, I mean, we all know it. We all feel it. We all know what it feels like. There is a great study by Dr. Gloria Mark at UC Irvine. Dr. Mark says that it takes, and she is the foremost leader on the topic of distraction. She says it takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to refocus after you've been distracted. So let me ask you, like, up until about 5 years ago, I hadn't done anything for 23 minutes and 15 seconds uninterrupted other than sleep in maybe a decade. So when you begin to retrain that, it's a really awkward feeling. And I will tell you, for people, we have a guideline. This is another one of the tips we give for people, is spend 1 hour physically distant from your phone every day. And that's going to feel uncomfortable. I can promise you that's going to feel uncomfortable. So instead of just going blowing out of the gate and saying, oh, I'm going to detox this weekend from my phone, just set a goal to have an hour away from your phone, physically distant every day. And if you can't do an hour, do 5 minutes. So let's think of this, and fellas, this is an important thing, because we're gonna want to go all out. We're gonna give it all we have, but let's just begin small and think of this as building a muscle. If someone told me I'm going to go, max out on bench in 2 months, I'm going to start light and I'm going to build that muscle up. I'm going to build that muscle up. I'm going to build that muscle up. So let's think of this from a long-term perspective. Think about, hey, so I'm 43 right now. Let's say I'm going to be married another 40 years. Let me just start. Let me think about it on a 40-year horizon of being attentive to my wife. So let me do this and build that muscle slowly, slowly, slowly. So start today with 5 minutes physically distant from your phone, because that is when we talk about relationship with your phone, the defining characteristic of our relationship with our phone is proximity. 91% of us have our phones with us 24 hours a day statistically. So just spending any amount of time moves you into the 9% club of people who do that, who spend time physically distant from your phone. So let's change the proximity and start a little bit. 5 minutes today, 6 minutes tomorrow, 7 minutes the next day. Slowly build up that muscle, because we all feel this. We know that our brains have been rewired. We all have heard, these things like neuroplasticity, that our brains are constantly reforming, forming, reforming, forming, reforming. And so when we do that for ourselves, here's the cool thing also, is that we're going to reform the brains of the people around us. What do they expect from us? My son is 16. My daughter's 14. My daughter, when it was 5 years ago, she and I watched a movie together. This was actually 4 years ago, May 8th, 2020. And I know that because I wrote it in my journal and I read it about a month ago. We finished a movie, and my 10-year-old daughter at the time, she turned to me and she said, very matter of fact, this was not congratulating me. This was not judging me. She said, Dad, did you know that's the first time we've watched a movie and you haven't had your phone? Which, Jarrett, that was a little bit of a punch in the gut at first, because it was like, crap, have I really screwed this up that badly for 10 years? But it was another side of it. I thought, this is kind of awesome. Like, this is kind of great. I did something. I've been thinking about this. We were just starting Aro at the time, so I was really working on this. So she noticed something good happening inside of me. So I told Gianna that story a few weeks ago, 4 years later. And I told her that. I said, hey, do you remember when we watched that movie and you told me that was the first time I watched it on my phone? She said, yeah. And then she laughed. And this is so good. She laughed. She goes, Dad, that would be so weird if you had your phone during a movie now. So what's happened for her? Her little brain, the neurons in her brain have been rewired into now expecting that when we do something together, I'm fully focused on her. And that's taken 4 years. So it wasn't too late at 10 years old. If your kids are not used to that by now, if they're 14, just begin now, because you have this amazing opportunity to reshape your own brain. You have the opportunity to reshape your kids' brains, your wife's brain. You have this opportunity to reshape what they expect of you, which is what you want to be, who you want to be. Anybody listening to this wants to be fully present. And we have that amazing opportunity to begin that today.
And I can't wait until her future husband breaks out his phone during a movie sometime. She says, put that thing away, right? The expectation's been set. We've raised the standard.
I love you said she's going to freaking throat punch him, right? Like she's going to, and I love that you said that, and you're totally right. So what are her expectations in dating now? She goes out to a meal with somebody, and he picks up his phone, and starts scrolling through. She'll just order the most expensive thing on the menu, let him pay for it, and never call him again, right? So her expectations have been reshaped for what she should get in a relationship. I love that you made that connection, because it's so true. What's normal for her is now different. And what's normal for her is full attentiveness.
She's going to be eating a lot of surf and turf in her
Oh
dating
man,
years,
I'll
sounds
tell you
like.
what, darn right.
Now, I saw something the other day that said, because you said, well, I'm not on it, I'm not on my phone, that actually said just having your phone visible actually does create even that chasm between you and the
Yes.
person. So you can't see it, but I got my phone sitting here right now. If we're in the same room and I have it here, even though I'm not using it, I'm not touching it, there's still a divide.
Yes.
Like that, like you know it, I know it. At any moment, that thing could go off. One of the
Yeah.
things that dawned on me before is when I look around and I see who's in my house and I say, all the most important people are accounted for.
Mm,
Then why on earth do I need to pull this thing out to get more of something?
yeah.
So if that's the case, you mentioned this box, or so
Mhm.
what is this RO box?
Yeah, but our Aro itself, so the entire Aro platform is designed to help people reduce their screen time, to create a barrier between you and your phone. So we began with this idea, like, what if we had a box for our phones that everybody put your phone in, and that worked okay, like just the physical presence of something that holds your phones. But then we realized we need a motivational system to help remind us to put our phones away, to track the amount of time we're away from our phones, to congratulate us after we've spent some time away from our phones. So we need this motivational system around us. And so we built the RO app that does exactly that. It's an app on your phone that reminds you, hey Jarrett, it's 6 o'clock, it's dinner time. Why don't you put your phone away? Then when you start an RO session, and you can do it in one of two ways. You can do it through the app only version, which you flip your phone, you enter an RO session. We recommend then people put it physically distant from them, and it begins tracking the amount of time you're away from your phone. If you put it in the RO box, it will automatically connect to your app. The box will connect to your to the app, and it will begin to track that amount of time you're away from your phone, because we need more than just this Apple screen time notification on Sundays that tells us how much we've been on our phone. We need to know when you've been physically distant from your phone, when you have intentionally been away from your phone. So it tracks that time. And then when you're at the end of that, you can do a quick tap to log what you've done. Say you've done family time. I'm reading the Bible in a year with a couple guys. And so we track our individual time of Bible reading. So I know exactly how much time I've been in the Word this year, which is a really cool thing. We like to track stats, and that's really motivational. And then you can use all the tips and tricks that the social media companies use to keep us on our phones. We use that to get you off your phone. What is your daily streak of spending time away from your phone? Have you connected your ring today of how much time you're away from your phone? So the RO app does all of that. And again, you can do that now with the app alone, or if you would like the RO box, you can purchase that separately. And that charges your phone. It automatically connects to the app. So we've done all of this to build in habit forming tools to help you get away from your phone. Now, the easy thought is, well, can't I just do this on my own? And the answer is absolutely. And if you can do that, please do it. Now, for me, the best comparison for me is like going to the gym. I can burn calories for free running around the neighborhood. I can build muscle for free doing push-ups in my living room. But I join a gym because I need help removing the friction of doing something difficult that I know is valuable. And that's exactly what we are. So for the person listening who says, hey, I've tried some stuff, I've tried this on my own, I've had a hard time, that's who RO is for. Is for the person that says, I've tried this on my own, I'm having a hard time, and I need some help to get it right.
I'm just thinking, what if we made that normal, that we don't have to live on our phones, that I
Imagine
don't
that.
have to have it with me? Now, I always think in my mind, but what if I miss a call? I never miss a call. And
What's the
I'm
last call you
personally,
missed?
I don't know. I keep my phone on do not disturb 24
Yeah,
hours a day
right.
anyways. But the only ones that can get through are my wife and kids. And so they
Yeah.
select number. If it's ringing, I know I better get it. But
Hmm.
isn't that I watched that Social Experiment, I don't that
Yeah,
movie, and it just
sure.
upset me. And I thought
Mm.
all the manipulation and all the things that go into trying to keep us on there longer, and they think they know you, and maybe they do, but I'll go back to something you said in the very beginning. A lot of this will come down to a want to, and what you're talking about. While it can be heavy and critical, it's very redeeming. Like you're
Yes.
giving us a vision of what can be, but we have to want it.
Mm.
Right. So what give me a couple steps. I know you've hit on some things for that guy. He's on his phone right now, going for a walk or whatever. What's he do? He says, well, I use my phone to listen to podcasts. I use it for this, that, or the other. How do we break free from it?
Yeah. For me, it's this topic is overwhelming for some people. They know they don't, people, we all know we don't like how it feels. We know we need to do something. We just don't have clarity on what to do. So in the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, he says a lot of people think they're lazy, but they just lack a system. So you were probably just lacking clarity in a system. And here's what I would invite people to do right now. Just go download the Aro app. Let this be your first step. We have a 7-day free trial. Check it out. See if it's good for you. But just take that step, that affirmative step. You are 50% of the way there, right? You're already aware. You are 50% of the way there because you've taken some affirmative action. And I would encourage you, again, I said at the beginning, but stop at nothing. This is, again, your kids' futures are at stake. The intimacy of your marriage is at stake. So take that step. Remove any excuse you have and take a step and just pursue a plan. Even an imperfect plan is a plan. And when you have clarity and you have a plan, it gives you confidence to take that next step forward. So for me, that's it. There are a bunch of other great people doing things in this space. If you have another great alternative, please go do it. So this is not an ad for Aro, but I do want to tell you, go download the app, the Aro app, just search ARO. That is your next first step. And then begin to do these things. Spend an hour away from your phone a day. Search for moments of connections with your family. Put your phone down at dinner. Put your phone down at a family movie. Begin to do those sorts of things. But let this first step be download the Aro app and let that be the action you take today, because you're drawing a line in the sand that says, I have enough. I have a big enough why that I need to do something about this.
One more thing before we transition to the guys in the herd. You
Yeah.
say you have a fast going on. Tell us about what this is, and then the email address. These links are in the show notes, guys. So if you're driving, don't worry about it. But go ahead.
So Dr. Darren Whitehead is a pastor in Nashville, and he wrote a book called The Digital Fast. Darren spoke at the Think conference in Nashville last year. I spoke at it 2 years ago, and Gabe Lyons, who's over Think, saw this. He saw a pastor establishing a digital fast, and he saw a technology company in us that was doing something about it. He said, hey, why don't we join forces of these two? And we're doing this. We're establishing at the beginning of January 2025, after the election is over, at the peak of noise and culture. We believe, what if we started the year with 28 days of quiet? What if we started the start of the year with the 28-day digital fast? It's a spiritual journey through Darren's curriculum. It's the Aro app is available for people during that time for January and February to be able to silence the noise, because, Jared, we believe, and I know you believe this, the church should absolutely be leading culture when it comes to technology. This is the thing. The church has always led culture, and this is the thing at this moment in time that the church should be leading. And even if all of culture looks at Christianity and they say, I don't necessarily believe their theology, but man, I love how they raise their kids. I love the fruit I see in them. I love how they're leading us in technology. We can lead in technology. So the church has an opportunity to lead in technology, and it will begin, I believe, January 2025 with the digital fast. So if you're listening, if you're a church leader, or even if you're just a congregant, if you just go to church and you want your church to be part of it, just email info@thedigitalfast.com. Just email info@thedigitalfast.com. We'll get you plenty of information if you want to participate so that the church can once again lead culture when it comes to technology.
That is so good. Thank you, Joey, for making time to be on the show. Thank you for what you're doing, the cause that you guys are fighting for, and doggone, we should at least meet you halfway and say, you're right.
Let's go.
You're right. Let's do something about it. For you guys in the herd, I got a couple more questions for him when it comes from the Christian perspective.